The knife in the back is never as surprising as we pretend. It was always prepared long before it struck. Loyalty doesn't vanish in a moment. It erodes in silence, one subtle act at a time. People rarely betray without warning. The signs are always there. The truth is, betrayal is not a lightning strike that comes out of nowhere. It is more like a slow crack spreading across glass, almost invisible at first, but deepening with each passing moment until the surface finally shatters. Most people are too distracted to notice these small fractures. They explain them away, excuse them, or even convince themselves that what they saw was nothing at all. But the signs are always there, waiting for the eyes that are willing to see. Think of how people behave when loyalty still matters to them. Their words align with their actions. Their presence feels consistent, steady, and dependable. They don't need to prove their devotion through constant declarations. It is shown in the little things, in how they defend you when you are not in the room, in how they keep their word even when it costs them. Now compare that to someone who will betray you. At first they appear the same, but tiny inconsistencies begin to creep in. Their tone shifts. Their enthusiasm wanes. Their promises become softer, easier to bend. Betrayal often begins in whispers, in moments so small they seem insignificant. A friend who hesitates to defend you in a conversation, but later assures you it meant nothing. A partner who grows distant yet insists nothing has changed. A colleague who mirrors your ideas one day, but subtly undermines them the next. These are not coincidences. They are rehearsals for something larger. The human heart rarely flips in an instant. It erodes slowly, preparing the way for disloyalty. Machiavelli observed that men are bound to you only as long as it serves their advantage. This means the earliest signs of betrayal will always show in how someone weighs their interests against yours. Do they celebrate your victories wholeheartedly, or do their congratulations feel thin, as though they wish your success was their own? Do they share in your struggles, or do they shrink away when loyalty costs them effort? Each of these moments is a clue, a piece of evidence in a larger pattern. People rarely betray without warning, because human nature is never perfect at hiding its intentions. The face slips, the mask cracks, and the truth leaks out in fragments. Betrayal is not an act that happens suddenly in the shadows. It is prepared openly, through repeated choices, through a trail of small betrayals that lead to the final one. What blinds us is not the absence of signs, but our reluctance to acknowledge them. We do not want to believe that someone close to us could ever turn against us. We cling to hope, to trust, even when the evidence says otherwise. Shifts in loyalty often appear first, in small, subtle actions, and this is what makes them so dangerous, because they are almost invisible to the untrained eye. Rarely does betrayal begin with an obvious strike. It begins with hesitation, with silence, where once there was support, with a glance that lingers too long, or avoids meeting yours altogether. A person's loyalty is not lost in a single day. It frays strand by strand, and those early frays are seen in the little things. At first they seem harmless, too trivial to call out, and so you let them pass. You tell yourself that perhaps they were distracted, or tired, or that you imagined it. But if you look carefully, those little inconsistencies are not random. They are the first signs of a shift in where their true allegiance lies. Consider how a loyal person behaves when someone is with you, truly with you. Their actions are steady. They speak well of you both in your presence and behind your back. Their behavior is consistent, whether the room is full of allies or enemies. Their loyalty is not dependent on circumstance, but grounded in a choice they made to stand with you. Now think of how shifts in loyalty appear. They do not announce themselves boldly. They arrive in subtle ways. Perhaps it's the colleague who used to defend your ideas but now stays quiet when others criticize them. Perhaps it's the friend who once rushed to your side in moments of trouble, but now takes longer to respond, offering excuses instead of presence. These are not accidents. They are small withdrawals, like coins being taken one by one from a vault until one day the treasury is empty. Machiavelli understood that human beings are motivated not by loyalty for its own sake, but by self-interest. This means that as soon as someone begins to feel that their interests are no longer aligned with yours, their loyalty will start to waver. Yet most people will not declare openly, "I am no longer loyal to you." Instead, they test the waters. They experiment with distance. They begin to show hesitation in areas where they once showed conviction. You might notice that they laugh a little too easily at a joke made at your expense, or that they avoid eye contact when a topic of importance to you is discussed. These are subtle actions, but they matter greatly because they are rehearsals for the larger betrayal to come. Small shifts also reveal themselves in the way someone manages their speech. At first, it may be a softened compliment. What used to be enthusiastic support becomes lukewarm acknowledgement. Then perhaps it grows into a quiet omission. They speak of plans but forget to include you. They talk of ideas but no longer give you credit where credit is due. Such changes are rarely random. A loyal person naturally speaks with respect, because it reflects their inner conviction. A disloyal person, even before they admit it to themselves, begins to let their real feelings slip through. Machiavelli once remarked that men rarely keep faith when it no longer serves them, and language is often the first place where this inner shift reveals itself. Even body language carries the weight of these signs. Where there was once openness, now there may be restraint. Where there was once closeness, now there is physical or emotional distance. They might position themselves differently in a room, standing closer to those whose favor they now seek, subtly placing you at the margin. They may not even be aware that they are doing it, but their subconscious is already pulling away, already aligning with a new center of gravity. Loyalty is not only tested in words and actions, but in the quiet signals the body gives off. And when someone's loyalty begins to drift, those signals often betray them before anything else does. The danger of subtle shifts is that they are easy to dismiss. You may notice a pattern, but choose not to acknowledge it, because to do so would mean admitting that someone you value may be preparing to turn against you. Human beings are wired to give others the benefit of the doubt, especially those we love, admire, or depend on. But it is exactly this reluctance to face reality that makes betrayal so devastating when it finally arrives. The signs were there all along, yet they were ignored because they were uncomfortable to confront. Machiavelli would warn us that power and survival demand clarity, not comfort. To ignore the first signs of shifting loyalty is to give your adversary the advantage of surprise. Imagine a ruler surrounded by advisors, as Machiavelli often described. An advisor does not suddenly conspire against his master without warning. First, he stops offering honest counsel. Then he begins to flatter excessively, or worse, withhold key information. Eventually he builds secret ties with rivals, always disguising these alliances as harmless friendships. Each of these steps is small, almost invisible if the ruler is not watchful, but combined, they represent a decisive shift in loyalty. By the time the betrayal fully manifests, it is already too late to prevent. The ruler's failure was not in the moment of betrayal, but in the blindness to all the moments leading up to it. On a personal level, the same principle applies. People do not abandon others in an instant. First, they stop showing up with the same eagerness. They cancel plans more often, or they listen less intently when you speak. Their laughter at your jokes feels forced. their promises come with delays, and their words of reassurance begin to sound rehearsed instead of genuine. These actions may seem too small to matter, but together they form a mosaic that reveals the truth. Their loyalty is no longer with you. The betrayal itself is just the final stroke on a canvas that was already being painted in front of your eyes. The reason subtle actions matter so much is because they reveal intent before it fully matures. By the time someone commits betrayal outright, they have already shifted internally long before. What you are noticing in the small changes is their inner decision manifesting externally. If you are wise, you will not dismiss these signs as meaningless. You will recognize them for what they are, the early warning signals of danger. Machiavelli teaches that survival and power are not about trusting blindly, but about observing deeply. To see a person's loyalty shifting in the small details is to give yourself the chance to act before the situation becomes irreversible. So when you sense that something has changed in how someone looks at you, speaks to you, or behaves around you, do not brush it aside. These are not random acts. They are indicators of a deeper transformation. Loyalty is not lost in a dramatic explosion, but in a quiet erosion. If you learn to spot the subtle actions, you will never be caught by surprise. For betrayal is always preceded by a shadow, and the wise are those who can see the shadow before the figure emerges. Envy and ambition are the quiet seeds of betrayal. They do not announce themselves openly. For envy rarely shouts and ambition rarely declares its hunger. Instead, they grow in silence, hidden beneath gestures of friendship, disguised in words of support, veiled in smiles that appear genuine. Envy is the poison that a person carries within themselves when they cannot bear to see another shine more brightly. Ambition is the fire that burns within, when they believe they deserve more than what they currently have. Alone, each can be dangerous, but when envy and ambition combine, they create the most fertile soil for betrayal. It is in this quiet combination that the deepest treacheries are born. Envy begins subtly. It often looks like admiration at first. Someone praises your achievements, congratulates your progress, and applauds your victories. Yet within their heart, those same victories remind them of their own shortcomings. Instead of being inspired by your success, they feel diminished by it. Machiavelli warned that men are quicker to forgive an injury than they are to forgive another's success. This truth is cruel but undeniable. When someone is envious, every step you climb feels to them like a step they are forced to descend. They begin to resent your place, your influence, your strength, because it reminds them of what they lack. The smile remains on their face, but the resentment grows like a shadow behind it. Ambition, on the other hand, is not evil in itself. It is natural for people to want more, to strive for higher positions, to desire greater recognition. Indeed, ambition has driven empires to rise and civilizations to advance. But ambition becomes dangerous when it collides with envy. For if a man's ambition is strong enough, and his envy of you deep enough, he will not simply wait for his turn to rise. He will begin to look for ways to replace you. He will justify betrayal in his mind as a necessary act, not of malice, but of destiny. He will convince himself that his betrayal is not treachery, but justice, that he deserves the position or recognition you hold. The combination of envy and ambition is dangerous, because it works quietly, almost invisibly. Unlike open hostility, it does not come with threats or clear opposition. The envious and ambitious person may still act as your ally, standing beside you, pretending loyalty, waiting patiently. But every compliment they give is laced with bitterness, and every small setback you face is secretly celebrated in their heart. They watch carefully, studying your weaknesses, storing away each flaw, not to help you, but to use it when the moment arrives. By the time they finally move against you, they have already rehearsed the betrayal many times in their mind. History is filled with examples of envy and ambition breeding betrayal. Kings have been brought down not only by foreign enemies, but by their closest advisors, men who dined at their tables and wore smiles of loyalty, while plotting their downfall. In The Prince, Machiavelli warns rulers to be wary of those closest to them, for proximity breeds ambition, and ambition easily turns to envy when one feels overshadowed. A loyal soldier may serve faithfully in the beginning, but if his ambition grows and he believes he deserves command, he may no longer see loyalty as a virtue, but as a chain. He begins to resent the one he serves, believing that only betrayal can unlock the future he craves. On a smaller personal scale, envy and ambition are no less destructive. A friend who envies your success may at first only withdraw, feeling uncomfortable in your presence, but if their ambition for recognition burns strongly enough, they will begin to undermine you in subtle ways. They may spread rumors disguised as concern. They may offer advice that subtly leads you into mistakes. They may mirror your ideas and present them as their own, hoping to claim your achievements as theirs. Each action may appear small, but together they reveal a mind that has shifted from loyalty to competition. The betrayal, when it comes, is only the final step in a journey long underway. The danger lies in the silence of envy and ambition. Few will confess, "I envy you," or "I want to replace you." Instead, they hide these feelings even from themselves. They cloak their envy in politeness, their ambition in hard work. You may see them clapping for you, smiling beside you, raising a glass to your victories, but the glass is raised not in celebration but in disguise. By the time you sense the depth of their resentment, it may already be too late. That is why vigilance is essential. To protect yourself, you must look beyond words and appearances, and observe the small cracks where envy leaks through. Does someone grow silent when others praise you? Do they fail to show the same joy in your achievements that they do in their own? Do they seem restless, dissatisfied, or always competing? These are the signs of ambition merging with envy, and when they appear together, betrayal is never far behind. Machiavelli understood that men are rarely content to remain in another's shadow. Ambition is a restless hunger. Envy is a restless wound. Together they gnaw at a person, until betrayal feels not like a choice, but like a necessity. The envious man tells himself, "Why should he have what I deserve?" The ambitious man whispers, "Why should I wait any longer?" When these two voices echo together, loyalty cannot survive. Yet the most dangerous part of envy and ambition is not simply that they exist in others, it is that they are often invisible to those who are blind to human nature. Many people believe that smiles guarantee loyalty, that kind words equal sincerity. But Machiavelli teaches us that human beings are driven by self-interest, and self-interest can change at any moment. If you mistake politeness for loyalty, you will be deceived. If you mistake silence for peace, you will be ambushed. True wisdom lies in recognizing that envy and ambition, though quiet, are always present forces in human relationships. The task is not to eliminate them, for you cannot, but to detect them before they become dangerous. Words of excessive flattery often mask hidden resentment, and this truth is one of the most deceptive dangers in human relationships. Flattery is easy to mistake for loyalty, because it feels good to receive it. When someone praises us endlessly, we are tempted to believe they admire us, respect us, even love us. But Machiavelli warns us that men are not bound by gratitude, and that words are cheap while intentions are costly. The flatterer spends nothing of himself by offering you sweet phrases, but he gains everything: your trust, your attention, your lowered guard. And once you begin to rely on their praise as evidence of loyalty, you give them the power to betray you when it suits their purpose. Excessive flattery is not the language of friendship, it is the camouflage of ambition, the mask of envy, and the weapon of those who cannot win by open honesty. Flattery always works in extremes. A true ally will praise you when you deserve it, but they will also challenge you when you are wrong. Their loyalty shows in their willingness to risk your displeasure by speaking truth to you. The flatterer, however, knows no such courage. Their goal is not your growth or protection, but your trust, and they achieve it by telling you exactly what you want to hear. They magnify your strengths, exaggerate your virtues, and blind you to your flaws. They do this not out of love but out of calculation, for the more they inflate your ego, the easier it becomes to influence you. Machiavelli observed that rulers surrounded by flatterers are in the greatest danger, for they live in illusions and fail to see threats until it is too late. What is true for princes is true for all. The one who drowns you in compliments may be preparing to bury you in betrayal. The flatterer's resentment grows in silence, fed by their own ambition. Each time they compliment you, they are forced to confront the reality of your position, your success, your influence, everything they desire for themselves. The praise they offer becomes a reminder of what they lack. Over time, admiration curdles into hatred, but since they have built their relationship with you on flattery, they cannot drop the mask. Instead, they tighten it, increasing their praise to hide their resentment, until the day comes when the mask finally cracks, and the betrayal emerges in This is why excessive flattery should never be taken as evidence of loyalty. In fact, it should be seen as the opposite, a warning that the person speaking may be hiding something darker beneath the surface. One of the most subtle dangers of flattery is how it blinds the one receiving it. Humans crave recognition. It is one of the deepest needs of the heart. When someone feeds that need constantly, you are tempted to trust them above all others. You may even come to resent those who give you honest criticism, preferring instead the sweet comfort of endless praise. But it is exactly this comfort that weakens you. Machiavelli wrote that rulers should always have men around them who dare to tell them the truth, but that the ruler himself must be wise enough to recognize who is flattering and who is honest. The same is true in all relationships. The more dependent you become on the flatterer's words, the more power you hand to the very person who may one day betray you. Flattery often appears most when someone has hidden motives. A colleague seeking promotion will praise your leadership endlessly, not because they admire it, but because they want to secure your favor. A friend who envies your success may drown you in compliments, not to celebrate you, but to conceal the bitterness they feel inside. Even in families, flattery can be used as a disguise, hiding resentment behind affectionate words. In every case, the excessive praise is not meant for you. It is meant for them, for their advantage, their security, their eventual. Words of this kind are not gifts. They are investments, made in expectation of a return. There is also a pattern to how flattery reveals itself. At first it seems harmless, a compliment here, a kind word there, then it begins to repeat, to grow, to exaggerate. The flatterer does not simply say you did well, they say no one could ever do what you do. They do not simply say you are intelligent, they say you are the wisest person alive. This exaggeration is meant to disarm you, to make you feel special, singular, irreplaceable. But therein lies the trap. For if you begin to believe that no one else is like you, you will also believe that no one could betray you. The moment you accept that illusion, you are already in danger. The great irony of flattery is that it appears to elevate you, but is secretly a tool to control you. The one who flatters is not your admirer, but your manipulator. They build a golden cage around you, made of words, so that while you feel adored, you are in fact being prepared for exploitation. Their resentment fuels their ambition, and their ambition eventually demands betrayal. It may take months or years, but the flatterer will not remain silent forever. When the moment comes, their resentment will spill out and the betrayal will feel shocking. Yet if you had paid attention, the warning was always there in the excess of their praise. So remember this: words of excessive flattery are not gifts to your spirit, but chains to your judgment. They mask hidden resentment, they conceal envy, and they disguise ambition. They are not the signs of loyalty, but the whispers of betrayal waiting to unfold. If you learn to see flattery not as admiration, but as camouflage, you will guard yourself against the resentment it hides.
For in every false praise lies a shadow, and in every shadow, the seed of betrayal. Machiavelli teaches that survival requires vigilance, not blind trust, and this is perhaps one of the most important lessons for anyone seeking to preserve their power, their dignity, and even their life. Blind trust is a luxury, a dangerous comfort, that leaves a person vulnerable to the unpredictable nature of human ambition and self-interest. To trust blindly is to hand over the keys to your fortress, without ever checking who stands at the gate. Vigilance, on the other hand, is the discipline of watching closely, of measuring words against actions, of observing the small details that reveal a person's true intent. Machiavelli never argued that one should live in constant fear, but rather that one should live in constant awareness. He knew that human beings are guided by shifting desires, and that loyalty lasts only as long as it aligns with self-interest. If you are not vigilant, you will wake to find that the loyalty you thought was unshakable has already been sold to the highest bid. The vigilant man understands that betrayal rarely comes from open enemies. It comes instead from those who once seemed closest, friends, advisors, allies, even family. These are the people you allow inside your defenses, and therefore these are the people most capable of striking a fatal blow. Blind trust opens the gate for them, while vigilance forces you to watch even those within your walls. Machiavelli would argue that this is not cruelty, but necessity, for the closer a person stands to you, the greater the danger they pose if their loyalty falters. The ruler who sleeps peacefully in the company of smiling flatterers is already defeated, for he mistakes friendly appearances for security. The vigilant ruler, however, knows that a smile can conceal a dagger, and so he watches with clear eyes, ensuring that no dagger ever reaches his back. Vigilance requires attention to patterns, not single acts. A loyal man today may hesitate tomorrow, and hesitation can grow into betrayal. The vigilant person notices these small changes, remembers them, and adds them to the ledger of observation. He does not confront every inconsistency immediately, for that would reveal his awareness, but he keeps a quiet record, understanding that character is revealed over time. Blind trust dismisses these signs as unimportant, but vigilance recognizes them as clues to the truth. In this way, vigilance is a form of intelligence, a constant gathering of information about those around you, so that no move ever catches you unprepared. It is easy to confuse vigilance with suspicion, but there is an important difference. Suspicion assumes guilt before evidence. Vigilance observes without assumption. The vigilant man does not need to distrust everyone openly, nor does he need to live in hostility. Instead, he simply remains awake to reality. He welcomes loyalty when it is real, but does not assume it will last forever. He accepts friendship, but knows that friendship can dissolve when interests change. He allows himself to enjoy support, but never so much that he cannot endure its loss. This balance is what Machiavelli understood. To survive, one must live with clarity, neither blinded by trust, nor paralyzed by suspicion, but steady, awake and prepared. Blind trust also weakens judgment. When you trust blindly, you allow emotions to rule where reason should govern. You interpret flattery as affection, excuses as truth, silence as peace. You bend reality to fit the comfort of your trust, instead of confronting reality for what it is. Vigilance, however, strengthens judgment, because it strips away illusion. A vigilant person is not deceived by sweet words, nor lulled into complacency by gestures of kindness. He asks, what does this action reveal? What interest does this serve? What lies behind this smile? By asking these questions, he sees what others overlook, and in seeing, he protects himself. Machiavelli was not teaching cynicism, but survival. He did not suggest that trust is impossible, only that trust must always be tested, verified, and never left unchecked. Blind trust assumes permanence, but vigilance accepts that human nature is changeable. Gratitude fades when circumstances shift, loyalty evaporates when ambition rises, promises dissolve when they become inconvenient. The vigilant person expects these changes, and is therefore never surprised by them. The blindly trusting person is shocked every time, wounded not only by the betrayal itself, but by their own refusal to see it coming. History is filled with leaders who lost everything because they trusted blindly. They placed their faith in the wrong advisors, allowed themselves to be surrounded by flatterers, or believed promises that were never meant to be kept. Their downfall was not simply betrayal, but their lack of vigilance. They mistook the surface for the substance, the words for the reality, and in doing so, they opened the door to their own ruin. By contrast, those who survived and thrived were those who kept their eyes sharp, their ears attentive, and their minds awake to the truth of human behavior.